Well, hello. We are back. Episode 8. Episode 8. Um, I know you're probably looking around like, Daryl, did you move? No, I did not. Technically, I did move locations as far as in the house. We're in Tennessee, and it is hot like the Dickens in Tennessee right now. And y'all have heard me talk about it before if you listen to other episodes about sweating it out. I'm done sweating it out for you. I'm sorry. I did all I could do. All right, so we moved in here where we got a little AC. We're actually just on the other side of the wall where we normally film it, but I had to do something. It feels. I think my temperature read Hades yesterday, and so pretty hot. So we got to be comfortable. If I figured it out. People said that I make them feel uncomfortable. And I think it's because I wasn't comfortable because I was so hot. All I could think about was being extremely hot during the filming. And so if that's probably why you felt uncomfortable because I wasn't comfortable. And now I'm a lot more comfortable. And so I think you'll be okay now. We got Gabe back in here, which is nice because, well, for one thing, it's so weird just talking to your phone for an hour. I don't like it. Uh, it just, and I don't know, it doesn't feel right. So at least I got someone in here to look at. We finally got him back over here. I don't know what he's been off doing, working or whatever, his paying job, whatever that means. Um, we got to have a talk though. If I told him I need you here at 2 a.m. on a weeknight, that you got to be committed. I'm committed. Not enough to sweat. Not enough to sweat. The sweating's over. All right. I mean, it is quite nice in here. I just got out of the cold plunge too, so I'm really cooled off. So, should be a good show. It's always a good show. Again, I'll toot my own horn. I don't care. But we always want to say thank you for the support. Thank you for everyone that's listened. Thank you for the feedback. Again, I take constructive criticism, not well always, but I'll still take it. So, whatever feedback, questions, hit us up. Leave a comment. Hit us up in the comments. Don't get crazy. Don't talk crazy in the comments. All right. But if you got a question, you know, on whatever format you're listening or watching or seeing this, leave us a question or or whatever. I'm not going to be a beggar. I've told you this. I'm not going to beg you for the subs or for the likes. All right. But if you feel the impulse, I won't hate it. I won't hate it at all. So I usually don't. I try not to drink energy drinks a lot. I went a long stretch without any. Every now and then and that Ghost Welch's grape. It's good. If there's one energy drink that get me hooked, it tastes like grape juice. It's so good. But anyways, let's see. Let's start out with a little story. Um, we'll start this episode with a little story for y'all. Uh, about about your boy here from. Let's see. This would have been about. Let's see. This is before my oldest son was born, so we're almost 20 years ago. I was working in New Orleans. It was right after Hurricane Katrina. I was down there for about a year after Katrina hit, doing different cleanup jobs and stuff like that. And we were down there doing some work, and we went on break. Went down to like a little gas station down the road or whatever from where we was working, and a guy approached us trying to sell chains. Now, if you spend enough time in a larger city, this is not something uncommon. Usually, you always have people walking up trying to sell you stuff. No big deal. Usually, you just blow them off. Nah, I'm good. But I like the way these chains looked. They looked like some nice necklaces, and I'm not a real big jewelry guy now, but back in the day, your boy, every time I come around your city, bling bling. You know what I'm saying? And so, and it was fake for the most part. Um, Not like a lot of CZs, a lot of them cubic zirconials. I used to hit the guy up, the Indian guy in the middle of the mall. I used to hit him up quite a bit back in the day, back in later high school, right after high school. In fact, I think it was my senior picture. I got the pinky rings on. I got the earrings in both ears. I've got the chain. Like I said, bling bling. But also the older I got, the less I wore. But I was wanting it to be real, and I thought I knew what real jewelry was. I thought I knew how to spot a fake. Right? I thought I had the knowledge. The street. I got listen. I grew up on the streets, not the mean streets, but they were streets. All right, it was a small town, and we'd get into some trouble on them streets. That's where I was at. All right, I didn't grow up in the hood, but your boy was in the streets, and so me thinking I had the street knowledge and that I could pinpoint imposters. Right, it would be easy for me. So when this guy came with these necklaces, I was like, yeah, let me take a look at it. So I get to looking them over, and I'm doing all the tests that I think are, to show whether they're real or not. I'm looking at the connectors and all that, and I think they're real. He got me. He sold me. I was like, oh, these are real. They're probably stolen. But back then, I didn't think like that. I didn't ask questions where the stuff came from. All right. I do now, but 19-year-old, 20-year-old Daryl, hey, people asking too many questions. You don't ask the questions, right? How much is it? That's what you want to know. And is it real? Those are the two questions you asked. And that's all I was asking. And so I go into it thinking they're real. They're probably stolen, but they're real. And I don't remember how much I paid for them, but I bought 3 of them, and I was going to sell 2, keep 1. And so that's what I did. 2 of the guys that we worked with, I sold them, and I don't even think I made any money on them. I think I just made my money back. I thought I was just, get a free chain out of the deal. Nothing crazy. I was making decent money. And so after about 2 days, I wake up. I think it was 2 days later, I wake up and the chain is starting to tarnish. He got me. I woke up and I saw the chain tarnishing, and I said, dadgummit, he got me. I've been tricked. I've been fooled. How? I knew all the stuff, right? I knew what to look for. I had all the knowledge. How did he trick me? This can't be. That's an embarrassing feeling. No one likes to feel that way when you think you're so dead set. Oh, I know, and then you get proven wrong. And not only that, but the other 2 guys come knocking on the door like, "Hey, man, what's the deal? You sold us bad chains." And I'm like, "Yeah, I got 2. I got 2. We all got." And they weren't too happy with me, and I understand. I didn't give them their money back, which is probably a douche move. But again, this was 19, 20-year-old Daryl. But it's embarrassing. I hated to face them. Nobody wants to face the people that, when you've been wrong, when you're so sure about something and you find out you were wrong. It's a hard thing to face because knowledge can make you prideful, right? The Bible warns us about this, is how knowledge can puff us up, and we have to be careful. You got to keep it humble, because if you don't, you will fall. And in our day and age, we have a lot of people that know a lot of things. They know a lot of stuff. They know a lot of facts. And that's good. It's good to learn things. It's good to try to have a grasp of the subjects that you feel passionate about. There's nothing wrong with that. Like for me, I want to know the Bibles, and I'm not a scholar. Uh, I try to read the Bible every day. I've been studying it for about 12 years now, and I still have so much to learn. Um, every time I've ever thought that, like, okay, I got a grasp on the Bible, God proves me wrong, and about how much more I have to learn, the depths of the knowledge of God that's within the pages of Scripture, is more evident to me the older I get, and the more I study and the more I read. And but that's a good pursuit. It's a good pursuit to know your Bible. In fact, I think especially Western Christianity struggles. One of its biggest struggles is it just doesn't know the Bible. It doesn't know Scripture. Um, it'll take a few. We'll take a few verses and we'll popularize them, and usually out of their context. Philippians 4:13 is probably one of the most famous for that. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You see the athletes, you know, put it on their, their wristband or whatever. Like that Bible verse is about being content with God. It's not about you winning the NBA championship. It's not about you winning the Super Bowl. It's not about you winning your high school baseball game. It's not about you, getting the promotion. It's about godly contentment. And then another one, that most unbelievers like to quote at Christians the most would be Matthew 7:1, judge not lest you be judged. That one really annoys me more than anything. I heard a pastor say one time that he thinks all unbelievers go to a summer camp where that's all they do is learn that verse. And you'd be shocked. Most of them would be shocked to read what the rest of that chapter said, because it actually tells you about how to make proper judgments. Because it's ridiculous. You don't judge anybody. Of course you judge. Of course you judge. If you see a guy walking down the side of the road and he's carrying a bloody knife and he's like, "Hey, can I get a ride?" Like, I can't judge him. I can't judge him. Come on, guy, get in here. And then you're dead. And then you've been stabbed to death because you didn't use proper judgment. That's on you and on him because he's a murderer. But you picked him up when you should have called the cops. Like, hey, there's a crazy guy trying to hitchhike. He's got blood all over him. He's got a knife. Y'all may want to come check this out. But no, you're like, well, judge not lest ye be judged. Well, now you're dead and you're at judgment. So you really played yourself. So it's about using godly judgment, right? And so we need to know our Bible. It's important to know your Bible for a Christian. But worldly knowledge, what do we do with worldly knowledge? Well, not all worldly knowledge is bad within its context. I get the accusation quite a bit that I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe they're right. I don't know. I don't put too much stock in it. I have some what people would consider uh, far out beliefs. I don't think they're that far out, of course, because I'm the one that has them. But conspiracy theorists, no facts, no this. Okay, but what I do know is we live in an evil world. We live in a world the Bible constantly warns us about evil and about people wanting to do evil and demonic spirits, demonic forces, um, engulfing the masses of this world. And not every single person that's an unbeliever is possessed by a demon, but they are demonically influenced because they bought the lie of the world. And the lie of the world is to be completely against Christ. It's all anti-Christ. If you're not in Christ, you're antichrist. There is no neutral. I'm not talking about a specific antichrist, which it could be JD Vance. I don't know. I'm not saying it is. But he just gives off a weird, like in the whole Peter Thiel thing, and Peter Thiel was doing all those he was doing all those seminars, those secret seminars about the Antichrist. The guy that's in charge of all the like surveillance stuff is doing Antichrist seminars. Kind of odd. And then he's the one that props up JD Vance. I'm kidding. I don't think he's the Antichrist. I'm just saying it's weird. Anyways, everybody thought it was Obama one time, and were they wrong? Egg on their face. It wasn't Obama. And I'm not an Obama fan, but I remember that whole thing. Obama's the Antichrist. I don't know. Maybe he is. Maybe he's gearing up for round 2. I don't know. You're getting me off subject here. But worldly knowledge, what do we do with it? What do we do with facts? Everybody's like, oh, I got the facts. You don't know the facts. Have you studied this? Have you studied? And listen, I've told you, I ain't got time to be listening to everything. All right. I got a job. Your boys got to go to work. I got to hit the gym. I got to get out there and rip some lips. I got to get out there and do a little deer hunting. Can't be just studying all the time. That sounds horrible. Who wants to spend their whole time just studying? You did that in school. I didn't do it in school. Probably should have. Probably wouldn't be driving a truck right now. But I'm just saying. You can't study everything. You can't be an expert in everything. Doesn't mean you can't talk about stuff. And so this accusation of you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know the facts, well, that could be possible. I don't claim to think I know everything, and I've never claimed to be right about everything I've said. Especially when it comes to these conspiracies that I believe are true. Because I don't, you take 9/11, I don't know who did it. I don't believe what they're telling us, though, but I don't know who did it. I can't sit here and tell you that George Bush was behind it, or Israel was behind it, or Osama bin Laden was. I can't. All I'm saying is there's a lot of weird stuff that they're not telling us. Have you ever seen a picture of the Pentagon and what it would look like if an actual plane hit it, like right before it hit it, how massive that would be? And then you go and look at the little, I'm just saying, it's weird. I've got questions. The Charlie Kirk stuff. I don't know who shot him, but there's a lot of weird things that they're not answering. A lot of weird stuff they don't seem to want to answer. Like, why did they pour concrete so fast over the crime scene? Or why did Joe Kent come out and say that they needed to investigate foreign influence and they shut it down? I'm just, maybe Tyler Robertson did it, maybe he didn't. I don't know. Smells fishy, and that's not because I just cleaned a catfish this morning. It smells fishy. And so what I like to refer to it as, how do you know the unknowable? People want to know the unknowable. I want to know the unknowable. But you can't always know it. And you can't be so prideful into thinking, I'm just following the facts that are presented, because how do you know those facts came from a reliable source? People say, oh, well, here are the facts. I'm not saying that we can't trust. There is actual facts out there. I do believe that 100%. But I see people get so haughty and prideful about the facts. I've got the facts. Okay. Well, unless you're starting with the fear of God, you don't really have any knowledge. How do you know anything? You can't truly know anything without the fear of God. Do you know stuff? Yes. But will you truly understand it? No. People want to get into, the evolution debate with Christians. Age of the earth, or we have the facts. Where do your facts come from? What are they rooted in? Because we can make an argument that everything is wrapped up in circular reasoning. This is something that used to scare Christians when they'd get accused of circular reasoning. Because how do you know God's real? Because he says he's real. Well, what tells you he's real? Well, the Bible tells me real. Tells me he's real. So you think God's real because God says he's real? Yes. Well, that's circular reasoning. So what? So what? Yeah. And I can do that with everything that you believe in. I can do that with every one of your little science projects, right? About, well, this is the age of the earth is what, you billion, 1 billion, 2 billion, oh, no, 3 billion. We just about like throw around billions out here like it's nothing, like it's spare change. I throw some billions on it, right? That's how we explain it. So we can wrap it all up in circular reasoning. So how do we get to truth? It's a good question. How do we get to truth? I've said this before. Truth is a person. Truth is found embodied in Jesus Christ. Take it or leave it. I'm not trying to convince anybody. I just present it and then pray that God works on people's hearts. I can't make anyone believe. But I believe 100% that Christ is who he says he is, that the Bible is 100% true. And I can go through the facts. We can go through the fact. Well, you want to get into the archaeology stuff. I mean, we're constantly seeing evidence pop up about just confirming how true the Bible is. There was something found. I haven't really looked into it, but they found some giant bones or something like that. I think maybe off the coast of Taiwan or something like that. The Bible talks about giants. But we're always getting evidence of the archaeology that proves the Bible right, because people have been trying to discredit the Bible for hundreds of years, right? But they can't. They can't prove it wrong. It should be easy, right? If it's just a spaghetti monster in the sky, like people say, the atheists say it is, it should be easy to prove wrong. They can't. And we can get into the philosophy of the Bible and how in our human reactions and our human feelings and how the things it talks about just confirming what we know to be true. But at the end of the day, it's not evidence that convinces someone to believe in the truth. It's never the evidence. Even if someone says it was the evidence, no one comes to the truth of Christ through the evidence. It's through the Spirit. And the first step in that is humbling yourself and not being puffed up in your own knowledge. And I try not to be. It's an interesting story. I have a friend who, when I met him, he was a militant atheist. And I met him, started interacting with him through Facebook. He'd comment on somebody's stuff that I knew, and then I think we had a couple small back and forths. And then he visited a church I was at the time, because he was doing this blog thing about all the different denominations. But again, he was a militant atheist, and so we agreed to meet and have a conversation. And he come in hot. I mean, he did everything I expected him to do. Trying to convince me I was wrong. And I didn't panic. A lot of Christians told me I shouldn't meet him. Like, dude, you're wasting your time, Daryl. I'll talk to him. I'll talk to anybody. And I think one of the things that probably stood out was I wasn't scared to say, I don't know. I don't know. I'll look into it, try to give you an answer, but I don't know. Because you're not going to know everything. And there were times where God would bring something to mind that I could answer something for him, but I went into it just, let's have a conversation. I'll tell you what I know, and if I don't know something, I'll just tell you I don't know instead of trying to make something up. And we as Christians got to be willing to do that. And we met a few times over the next year or two, and he ended up becoming a Christian. I'm not saying it's because of me, but I at least extended that invitation to have that conversation with him. And because I'm not scared of what I don't know. And so we can't be prideful in the facts. And we see a lot of people prideful in the facts, but there's this, go back to this knowing the unknowable. There are things I know that I can't prove. Like, I know God's real. I can't show him to you. Like, physically. I can show you his works. I can show you the things he's done. Physically, I can show you the things he's done in my life, but I can't physically show him to you. I can look at certain situations and have a pretty indication of someone's involvement. I can't prove it. But when there's a common denominator in these certain things, and just bring it up. You take Israel. If there's a guy that's constantly, say, all these things are going on around me, and there's one guy that's always there, but he's always like, I have nothing to do with it. Eventually, you'd be like, I don't know, buddy. You always seem to be there. You always seem to be around. You're always kind of hanging around. Kind of weird. Every time something pops off, you're around. Can I prove it? No, I can't prove it. But I know something's weird. And it's okay. I don't have to be able to prove it. I don't have to be able to prove that Lee Harvey Oswald didn't kill John F. Kennedy. But there's enough questions there to make me, nah, I don't think he did. Don't think he did. Go to the Oklahoma City bombs. Remember John Doe number 2? Well, they tried to wipe him away real quick. That's weird. So even though I can't prove certain things, I can still know that something's wrong with it. I can still know that I'm not being told the truth. I can still know that I'm being lied to. Think about this with your kids. You say, Israel, you start getting thirsty because you feel the eyes like locking in on you. Like Peter Thiel's devices are zooming in on you. But you take your kids and something happens. You didn't see it. You know when they're lying to you. At least I do. I know when my kids are lying to me. I can see right through it. But I can't prove it. It's the same way with the government. I mean, how many times do these people have to lie to us before we're like, I'm just going to stop believing anything you say at this point? I mean, again, I go back. If you knew someone who was just always lying to you, and I've met people like that, just always lying to you. I'm not saying that they don't ever say anything's true, but when they tell me something, I got to be like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, but I don't know. I mean, I don't understand it. I get it. People don't want to live in like this. Everything's a conspiracy, right? And I don't think everything is a conspiracy. I do believe that there's a lot being done to to control us. And we're going to get into a little bit of that with the Bible verse I'm going to bring up. But I don't think everything's a conspiracy. But when we know these institutions constantly lie to us, you can go back to COVID. Is the most recent one, all the lies that's come out of COVID. Yet we always give them the benefit of the doubt that the original information that they're giving to us about whatever is true. Why do they deserve that? Why do they get the benefit of the doubt? Have they earned it? Has any politician ever earned it? Has any major corporation that's involved with our wellness earned it? What gives them the stature to where we should just automatically trust them until we have hardcore evidence that they're wrong? I just can't be that trusting. But yeah, I see people doing it. I mean, you can see politicians just lie to your face, and then, they put out some facts about some topic, and they're like, well, until that can be proven wrong, we got to believe it. No, we don't. And so all I'm saying is sometimes you're going to know the unknowable, and don't be scared to talk about it. Don't be so haughty that you think all your facts can't be disturbed. You can't panic. I've been proven wrong plenty of times, and if I'm proven wrong, hey, it is what it is. I will change my thoughts. But there is an element of knowing the unknowable, the unprovable. Like I said, I may not know the details, but I know something's up, and I know what I'm being lied to. And so if that makes me crazy or, dumb or whatever, I don't care. I'm not trying to impress anybody. I impressed my wife enough to get her to marry me. That's all I really care about. And I like to lift heavy stuff in front of my younger kids because it makes me feel cool. So outside of that, I'm not trying to impress anybody. And I'm comfortable. And I think that's what people need to get is comfortable in what they know. And if you're never comfortable in what you know, you'll never have peace about it. Even when you think you have the facts, if it hinges on, and I've seen Christians do this, when I've seen Christians try to talk to atheists online instead of giving them, they know God's real. They know it. But in their case, they haven't studied enough for their facts not to be shaken. Because I say that because when God's Not Dead came out, I don't know how I feel about that movie, but whatever. When it came out, it was a big hit. A lot of Christians watching it. I'm sure it's fine. But when atheists were attacking it or attacking Christianity, the common response was, you need to go watch God's Not Dead. Okay, so they can watch another movie, You should be able to explain to them why God's real. You should be able to talk to them. It's not a movie's job. So be more confident in your facts. But they were shaky in them because an atheist was asking them questions they never thought about. And instead of being like, hey, I don't know, but this is what I believe in, they freak out and tell them to go watch a movie, So I bring that up because we live in a debate world right now where everyone is wanting to be a debater, whether it's online, whether it's mostly online. And I see so many people who are just haughty in what they consider right. And so the big thing this week was the Andrew Wilson, Candace Owens debate, which I didn't watch the full debate because I kind of figured how it was going to go in a lot of these debates. And I like a good debate. I learned stuff in debates. And I used to listen to Dr. James White debate all the time. Great. And I think he does a really good job, and some other people, some Christian apologists who do really good at debates. But a lot of the debates we see now, it's just about them wanting to be right. And I'm sure it's always been that way, but it's more popularized now with social media. We see a lot more of it. And people just want to be right. They don't really care if their facts are wrong. They're not open to them being wrong. They're open that they just want to win the argument. And that's not a good way to debate. Is you've got to leave room for, maybe I am wrong about this, or maybe I am wrong about that. Maybe you got to have that humility to say, okay, well, you actually bring up a good point I've never thought about, and I need to go back and consider that. You don't get that. You get people just trying to get other people caught up on words. It's a big word game. And that's kind of what happened with the Andrew Wilson, Candace Owens debate. And I don't know much about Andrew Wilson. I've seen some clips that he's done. He seems like a really smart guy, a very good debater. And most of the clips I've seen of him was where he's like, Andrew Wilson debates lib, and which that's easy. Anybody with common sense with these like extreme liberals, it's not, you're not going to get anywhere with them, right? Like if people can convince themselves that, often a child the day before it exits the womb is okay, you're not going to be able to convince them on a lot. If you can be, some kind of animal, or you can be a dude when you're a woman, like it's hard to convince, but it's fun to watch. Guilty pleasure. It's fun to watch. It's fun to watch them watch their worldview fall apart. And I don't mean in a sense for them to be embarrassed. My prayer is that they actually think about how fragile their worldview really is, and how easily it could be dismantled. But in their head, they think they got the facts, right? So I've seen some of his clips where he's, unraveled these liberals' worldview, and does a really good job at it. And like I said, a lot of it's funny. He's a little brash, but your boy here your boy here has been accused of being a little brash too. So I connect with him on that. And then you got Candace Owens, who is very well known. Either you love her or you hate her, pretty much. I love everybody. And like I've said before, with anybody, there's probably a lot I agree with them on and a lot I disagree with them on. And we live in this world where if you agree with somebody on something, you support everything they say, which is crazy because she's a Roman Catholic and I'm not a Roman Catholic. Your boy's a Protestant. All right. Nail it to the door. You know what I mean? And so I'm not trying to pray to Mary, right? Sorry. Bible doesn't tell me to. Sorry. Not sorry. Not praying to her. Love her. Thankful for her. Not praying to her though. And so, of course, there's something I disagree with her on. But you have these two debating the Charlie Kirk assassination, and you scroll through Facebook or whatever social media, and one post will be like, "Oh, Andrew Wilson owns Candace Owens," and the next one will be like, "Candace Owens embarrasses Andrew Wilson." It's like, well, nothing really happened, right? Nothing really changed. You kind of knew where Andrew Wilson stood, and you knew where Candace Owens stood. Did anybody win? I don't know. I haven't listened to the whole thing. I've listened to maybe half of it, clipped up. It's 4 hours long. That's a long one. That's a long one to not be really learning anything. Just listen to two people argue. I'm going to do that. I'll drive to Gatlinburg with my kids if I just want to listen to people argue for 4 hours. At least I could tell them to be quiet. I guess I could just turn the phone off and stop. But you get what I'm saying. But also, I'll say this. I'll say this about the debate. Andrew Wilson is one of these people. It seems to me like he's very haughty in his facts. He's very haughty in his facts, and he clings to certain aspects of facts that is given from untrustworthy sources. Anything coming from the government, sorry, I can't trust it. But that's what he's holding on to. And it doesn't matter if the perception, of one of these details in the case calls into question these facts, right? He's sticking to the hardcore proof. Again, it's not always a bad thing, but it's not always a helpful thing either. It's not always going to get you to the truth of what's going on. Where Candace Owens, and I don't know her, she seems very passionate about it because she was friends with Charlie Kirk. Some people say she's doing this for money or attention. I don't know. I can't judge a person's motive. I don't, especially people I don't know. But she's into this realm of trying to know the unknowable. She believes that she sees and there's a lot of things that I agree with her on too, especially about this. Like, I don't know if she thinks Israel had a hand in it. I don't know if they did. I do know that Joe Kent came out and said that there was enough reason to investigate foreign involvement, whichever country that is, and the FBI shut him down. Weird. I'm not saying a 30-06 couldn't have done what it did. It could have. Bullets are weird. They're not predictable always. Now they're not like John F. Kennedy magic bullet where it like went in and then it hit and then it came out, ricocheted, went back in. That was a wild one. That was a fun one, wasn't it? The magic bullet theory. That was a government document. And you wonder why I have trust issues with these people. They believe in the magic bullet. But the 30-06, I do got questions about how he broke it down so fast, about place, there's a lot of weird things that she sees and that I see too. But I can't necessarily prove it. Doesn't mean she's wrong. Doesn't mean she's right either, but doesn't mean she's wrong. And so what do we do? What do we do with it? Everybody wants to pick a side, right? Well, I'm side Candace or I'm side Andrew Wilson. And you don't have to pick a side. You can listen to it and you can glean from it what seems to be reasonable, what seems to be true, and what seems to be, there's implications that there might be truth. You just can't get to it yet. Was it helpful? I don't know. I don't think it was. Did it make some people some money? Probably. I think she got paid. I'm sure he got paid. Whatever. Does it draw us any closer to understanding what happened with the Charlie Kirk assassination? I don't know. Maybe people got some new perspective on some things. Hopefully, either side. Because both sides could be right about certain aspects, and then both sides could be completely wrong about certain aspects. But I don't think anybody won. And I don't think we're winning. I don't think we're winning in this. It's not even a thing. I know we're not winning. Not in this current state that we're in. Because our issue is with objectivity. And we've lived in this postmodern world where objectivity is not believed in, but yet it's lived out. So what I'm saying is people will say my truth is my truth, or that's not my life experience, or nothing's objectively true. But that statement in itself is you're saying it as objectively true. When you say nothing's objectively true, that's an objectively true statement. So you see the fallacy there? And until a people get back to the root that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of all knowledge, we'll never really figure any of this out. We'll constantly be at each other's throats about what's facts and what's not facts. And so that's why I don't think anybody wanted this debate. And I think it's just another picture of the culture that we live in, and where facts don't really mean anything outside of the knowledge of God. They just don't. And until Christians become more studied in what they believe and more grounded in those beliefs and able to, and I'm not saying you got to be a scholar. You don't have to be ready to debate anyone, but you are called to give a defense, called to give an answer. We're all called to that. Until people see us living comfortably in what we know to be true, I don't know how much change in our culture we'll see. And so that's my thoughts. That's my thoughts on all that. Take it for what you will. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know if anything I say makes sense, but I do know that it makes sense, and that's God and His Word. And so we just try to stick to that. And so I had something wrote down. I try not to do notes. I try to just go off the dome. Oh, this is a good verse to end that with. I should have brought this up earlier. When we're talking about what we say. Proverbs 10:19 says, "When there are many words, transgression is unavoidable, but he who restrains his lips is wise." And so, if our goal is to constantly talk, like a guy on YouTube is telling me not to constantly talk. This is an hour a week. All right. I'm not talking to you all day long. I ain't got time for all that. But when we constantly want to talk about things we think we know, we're going to make mistakes. There's going to be transgressions. We're not going to always get it right. And so when it comes to knowledge, it's sometimes good to pull back and to restrain and to contemplate what you're saying, because I do think about the things that I say. I try not to talk about anything that I don't have some bit of knowledge in, unless I'm being, I'm asking questions about it, trying to learn. I try not to just fly off the hip. I try to put a lot of thought into the things I talk about, whether it's on this or just conversations with people, because that verse is true. If the more you talk, the more likely you're going to sin. And so that's just a good thought to keep in mind when we're talking about this debating and trying to talk to people about facts. It's not saying don't talk. It's just restrain what you say. All right. Let's get into a little culture killer. I don't have my clock in here. Gabe, how long have we been going? Do you know? Under 50? Oh, goodness. All right. Your boy was long winded on that one, and I don't know if it made sense. That's my truth, right? Gotcha. It's my truth. No, I don't have a truth. My truth is that Christ is Lord, because that is the truth. All right. Real quick, I got a little culture killer for you. Let's talk about corporate guys for a minute, or gals, corporate guys or gals. And shifting gears, all right. So we got into some heavy stuff. Let me downshift here a little bit, gather myself. Let's re up. Let's re up real quick while we make it down the home stretch. Your boy's going fishing again here in a little bit. Didn't get skunked yesterday. We only caught one, and it was kind of embarrassing to only have to clean that one small catfish, but we did it. And we're going to catch some more tonight, hopefully. Lord willing. But culture killer, corporate guys and gals. Let's talk for a minute. Now, I've always had this belief that you should work hard at whatever job you have. I think no matter where you work, no matter if it's your first job, you're working at a restaurant, you're cooking food, your first like construction job, your first like real career type job, no matter what it is, you should always work hard. Always, no matter what you're doing, always try to be good at it and work hard at it. I truly believe that. And I think the Bible teaches us that to be hard workers and to be good workers and to respect the people that you're working for. 100% believe that. It's not always easy, right? It is not always easy. I've worked for some people where I'm like, ugh. And I haven't always been a hard worker. I had to learn to be a hard worker. My first job was working for my mom at her restaurant. And she'd probably tell you, I wasn't winning employee of the month. She didn't do it. I would have never won it though. It's hard to work for your mom as your first job, especially when you were as bad of a kid as I was. And the first time I worked for someone outside of her, it's horrible. It's horrible. I tried to work at a restaurant. I actually tried to have a second job. And I was working there on the weekends, and there's a little cafe outside of Nashville. They had a breakfast bar on the weekends, and I was gonna wash dishes. And I was 14 or 15, and I quit because they wouldn't let me have smoke breaks. Not a good look. Not a good look at 14 and 15-year-old. It wasn't their fault. They did the right thing. No, you can't go smoke. That's reasonable on them. I was the problem in that situation, right? They weren't the problem. I didn't see that at the time, but we good? Oh, okay. I forgot to put it on Do Not Disturb. Oh, well. Your boy's messing up here. I'll take that one. I won't blame Gabe. I did hide the 2 liters, though. I don't let him run those. I'll give him a can Coke and I'll open it. You know what I'm saying? Just to be sure. Anyways. So it's good to be a good hard worker. All right. I'm getting way off track today. I think it might be the setting. I don't know. I like it in here though. It's nice. It is comfortable. Maybe I need to be uncomfortable. I don't know. But be a hard worker. Now, here's the problem though. And I've seen this at multiple places. Is you get these guys that like go all in for the company. And that's what I don't like. Listen. Working at a place is like a business agreement. Okay? You agree to do whatever job on their terms for it, right? And they agree to pay you and then give you these benefits to do it. It's a business agreement, okay? I'm going to do this and you're going to give me this. That's how capitalism works, right? The problem is a lot of corporations, especially the bigger the company it is, they do all this stuff about buying in and family, right? You'll hear it like, oh, we're a family. Unless you mess up, then they'll fire you. I can't get rid of my family like that, right? If my kid messes up, I can't be like, adios, hit the road, buddy. So I don't know how much of a family that is. But they'll constantly try to get you to buy in. And you want, I think you should do things to respect your company that you work for. I think that you should be a good employee. You should come to work. You should do the job that you've been asked to do. Um, you should represent yourself well for the company. But these companies, a lot of times, they try to act like they're charity, like they're just giving you money. Like, no, I'm working for it. I'm doing the job, and you're giving me the money. That's the trade off here. That's the agreement. But I have a real big issue with the whole give your all for the company. Give your all for the company. Let me tell you something. If you do that, that's fine. But that company's not giving their all for you. Listen, I always tell people this. Give a company your hard work. Don't give them your devotion. Do not give them your devotion because you will not get devotion from them in return. Now, there's a lot of good companies and a lot of companies that will take care of you, and you should take care of them. But this idea of just bleeding for the company is crazy to me. It's just crazy to me. And I think it's ridiculous. And quite honestly, it's a bit annoying. It's a bit annoying when you're constantly, I'm not saying, let me be careful. I don't want to get in trouble where I work now. I'm just talking about in general, all the jobs I've had. Okay. Talking in general. All right. Get off my back. Just talking in general. When companies constantly bombard you with love us, love us, love us, love us, it's weird. It's odd. And I don't like it. All right. You can't force me to love you. I can respect you. I can I can do a good job. I'm not gonna die for you. I'm not gonna die for you. And I'm not gonna live for you either. I'm not. It's a job. My devotion, your devotion should go to the things that are ultimately important. Your family. God first. God should be getting all your devotion. And then it goes to your now your work should be a form of worship because you're representing God. I 100% believe that. But that doesn't mean you have to buy into everything the company you work for tells you. You can still ask. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to talk about things that you don't like in a respectful manner, right? It's okay to be opposed to changes. That's what something that always gets me is a lot of companies, big time corporations, they'll lie to you and say the company's evolving. They'll tell you something, then go back on it like, oh, well, the company's evolving. But if you lie to them, they'll fire you. You can't say, well, I evolved, right? It doesn't work. They'll just fire you. But when they get caught lying, it's evolving. And just some of the stuff we have to deal with because ultimately they have the money and we need money to live. And so there's a level of it that we just got to put up with. I'm just saying, don't buy into it and get on all your coworkers' nerves. That's what I'm saying. Don't drive your coworkers crazy. Okay? I worked at a place one time where I was making I had a rough day and I was telling him about it. And he just looks at me, no one else around. There's no one watching. There's no bosses listening in on us. He just looks at me and goes, but the product got delivered to the customer in a timely manner, and that's what matters. I'm like, dude, I will smack you. I'm about to go hands right now. I don't want to. I like you, but I just had a long day. Don't be coming at me with what matters is the customer got. No, it doesn't matter. At that moment, I'm not in the mood for it, right? Let me vent. Everybody's got to vent a little bit about their job. Be talking all crazy, like, oh, company boy. I'm saying that's how you make enemies. That's how you get people to not want to talk to you at work. So let's just cool it. All right. Let's cool it with the company Kool-Aid. Let's cool it with the company Kool-Aid. That's all I'm saying. Do a good job. Represent where you work well. Okay. You can try to move up if you want to. Great, grand, wonderful. I'm just saying, cool it with the I'll die for this company. That's crazy. And maybe you don't say it. Maybe you don't say you'll die for them, but you act like it sometimes because you act like life revolves around it. And if your life revolves around the company you work for, that's unfortunate. That is very unfortunate. I don't know. Maybe that's why I don't move up anywhere. I got a big mouth. I don't know if you can tell. I say things. It's not always gone well for me. Remember the Bible verse that we just read? Yeah, I haven't done a good job with that one, right? Trying to get better. I'm evolving, as some would say. Not in the like the I came from a monkey evolving, because that's crazy. But I'm evolving as a human, right? I'm enlightened. That's weird to say. Feels weird. Just cool it. Stop getting on all your coworkers' nerves. They're just trying to come in and do a good job and go do the things that they're really devoted to, and you're all up in their face talking about the customer. The customer doesn't care about you. I promise. They just want their stuff. They just want the trucks here. That's what they want, right? So just cool it with it. Don't be that guy or gal. I don't see it with women as much. I see it with dudes a lot more because they want to move up the company ladder, which again, it's not a bad thing. It's not for me. I'm a grunt guy. I'm there to do the hard work. I'm not the corporate guy. I don't I don't do well in that. I don't do well in dress shoes. It's weird. I just don't I like my shorts and I like my tennis shoes and my apparently too small t-shirts. Listen, I can't help it that your boy been putting in the work, all right? I can't be going buying new shirts every month. You know what I mean? This is not a medium. That's a large, and that's where I started, and that's where I'm going to stay in a large. I don't care if it cuts off the circulation to my head. This is the size I will wear. So, anywho, let's do a little bit of Bible. We've kind of done some, but and this will kind of actually go back to a little bit of what we were talking about originally. If you was able to make any sense, and then listen, if you didn't make any sense of what I said earlier, that's on you. That is on you because it made complete sense in my head. And that's ultimately who I got to worry about. I just got to make sure it makes sense to me. And I feel comfortable with it. And I'll go fishing in the night and not worry if it made sense to you. Sorry. I love you though. I love you. Anyways, I want to read out of the book of Ephesians. And a lot of, if Christians have heard this. And so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, but just something to think about. And this is the verse with the armor of God, but we're not going to talk about the armor of God. Ephesians chapter 6, and I'm going to start at verse 10, but I'm going to key in on verse 12. It says, finally, be strong in the Lord. Ephesians 6:10. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the full armor of God so that you will be able to stand firm against the schemes of the devil. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in heavenly places. And then it'll go on and talk about the specifics of what the armor of God is. But I want to bring it because you'll hear people say, well, we're not fighting a physical battle. This is against spirits, principalities, and things like that. And yes, that's true. But where does that play out at? It plays out in the physical world. And that's what we've got to understand when it comes to all the things going on in this world. You look back through the Bible, and where was evil and darkness mostly? It was playing out throughout all the people, but the power that it toted was through the rulers, right? It was through the kings. It was through whether there was evil kings in Israel and Judah, you go back through First and Second Kings and First and Second Chronicles, you'll get the good kings and the bad kings, and then you see the kings of the countries surrounding them, all right, and the wickedness that they were involved in. It started at the top and trickled down. But for some reason, we hear this verse and we think that all this stuff is happening in this spiritual realm that we can't see. But it's happening in the physical world. It's just influenced spiritually. And that's what you've got to remember. And that's why it's not that crazy to think about all these conspiracies and people in high places lying to us and deceiving us, because we have proof that it's happened. Why would it stop? Right? Why would it be manifested in today's world? I mean, you can get down some rabbit holes when you start looking into leaders of this country, leaders of finance, leaders of industries like entertainment industry stuff, and all the occult and Satanism that these people are involved in. And then we're supposed to trust them? I'm sorry, I'm out on that. If you're into occult Satanism, it's hard for me to believe anything you've got to say. And it's hard for me to be comfortable with you just making decisions for my life and me going along with it because you're the expert. Expert in what? In darkness? Yeah, I believe you there. And what is the point of all this happening, right? The whole point of all this happening, the whole point of all the wickedness and the darkness that we see, and I'm not going to get into all the specific details, the different conspiracies, all that, but it's a fight against Christianity. It's a fight against true Christianity, against Christ. It's all anti-Christ. And listen, this goes for the occult. This goes for Satanism. This goes for Mormonism. Sorry, conservatives. I know you want to get linked up with the Glenn Becks and all that, but Mormonism is a false religion. Islam. We're talking about that. If you want to critique, because people say I'm a big Tucker guy, and I do, I like Tucker Carlson, but if I had one critique on him, I think he's too soft on Islam. All this stuff is, if it's not Christian, it's demonically influenced. And Christians need to realize that. If you're an unbeliever, listen to this, you're crazy, Daryl, whatever. I got it. I understand. I'm not going to try to convince you I'm not. If you're a Christian, you need to listen to what this verse says. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood. That means it's not against flesh and blood, but it plays out in the flesh and blood. But against the rulers, because rulers, they rule the flesh and blood, right? It's the physical world. Against powers, against world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in heavenly places. So yes, it's a spiritual battle, but it's playing out in this physical world. I'm not saying that we as Christians take up arms, right? I'm not saying that we start a revolt or revolution in like the war sense. But to fight the spiritual battle is to take up arms spiritually. And this passage goes on to tell you how to do that, the whole armor of God. And eventually it gets to the point where it tells us that the word is our sword, and we fight with this. And so we combat the darkness with the light. The only way to clear darkness out is to shine light in it. And so whether we're talking about conspiracies, if we're talking about, all the Israel stuff, hey, if they reject Christ, they are of the devil. Even Jesus said that. Jesus told the people who ruled in Judea at that time, if you rejected him, you rejected the Father that sent him. He said, he called them sons of the devil. What do you think the synagogue of Satan is referring to? Yikes. And so be careful what you hitch your wagon to, is all I'm telling you. Because this spiritual battle is playing out in front of our physical eyes. And our call to arms is to arm ourselves, equip ourselves with the word of God, and to go out and shine the light into the darkness. That's how we fight this battle. You've got to stop pretending that you're not in the fight. You've got to stop pretending that you're not in the fight, because if you're a Christian and you're living in this physical world, you are in the fight. You're supposed to be in the fight. God didn't armor us to parade. Okay? He didn't suit us for battle so that we could just parade through the streets and wave at everybody. He armed us to fight. And so we've got to get that fight back in us. So, anyways, that's all I got. Do with it what you will. But hey, thanks again for joining us. And hope you like the new setup. I like it. We might get some stuff going on back here. It's kind of weird looking at the plug and the breaker box, but hey, what are you gonna do? You know, get the subs up and we'll get a studio. Until then, we'll be here and we're gonna have a good time doing it. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye. Gabe, put that 2 liter down, my man. I'm not playing with you.